Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. Oh my gosh, we're on episode 3 of Modao Zushi, and it's 27 minutes long. It's already longer than the other 2 episodes. Oh good, yay. I feel bad for when this gets adapted for the Japanese dub, because in the first season, we had a couple episodes that were like 28, 34, 35 minutes long, and I was told from some viewers that were watching in Japan that they had to cut stuff out to make it fit into that 23-minute time slot. And that's really sad, because I really want to, I really want them to enjoy the full episode as well, so it kind of sucks. I've also been told on Patreon that there are some commercials that this version isn't showing that's on WeTV, and so I'm probably going to go back and watch them and talk about them for episode 4 maybe, or if you all by then have probably linked me to the commercials themselves on YouTube, or I might go back and watch the YouTube version so I can see the commercials. We shall see. But oh my gosh, I'm so excited for a 27-minute episode. Last episode, I was an incoherent mess. I think both episodes came out that weekend, and I watched one the night before and the next day, and that's too much. I need a week to process. I think I need a week to process Modao Zushi, because by the end of episode 2, I was just like, my brain was fizzled. I was like, what's happening? And ending the day on Modao Zushi is not good, because I need to sit there and analyze, and my brain was just mush at that point. But Yang, the reveal that Yang has been posing as Xingqian, the whole thing with the flashback, Jing's introduction, there's so many questions of who's guarding Xingqian's body. Why is it so immaculate for being a corpse? Why is it not a fierce corpse? Why hide it in the coffin? Why hide it in the house? Why have it to where the corpses can't leave the house once they're locked in? What's the deal with that? Why is Yang posing as Xingqian? It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. And there are lots and lots of questions as to going into this episode. The mystery just deepens and deepens. And the one thing that is clear, though, is that Yang knows that it's Wuxian in Mo Jianyu's body, which is a problem, because I have a feeling that Yang's not going to keep quiet like Wanji about it, or like Chang about it. He's going to be telling people, and then it's all going to get out. And I'm like, that's the last thing we need is for Wuxian's... Not that Wuxian's doing anything to hide that it's him, not that he's really being, stealthy and incognito, but he even notes that Wuxian hadn't told Ling about his identity, and I'm just waiting for that shoe to drop, for Wuxian to have to admit that it's been him, and for Ling, because Ling has kind of developed this weird relationship with Wuxian as Mo Jianyu over the past few seasons, where he's disgusted by Wuxian as Mo Jianyu, but he's also like has helped him get away from Chang. He's like kind of been in this conflicting relationship, and I don't know. And the fact that Wuxian a few episodes ago told him that he was sorry, it's just, yeah, we're back in last season, but in the novel, he just now is telling him that he's sorry. It's interesting, to say the least. But yeah, I'm excited to get into episode 3. I have waited all week to get this on a week-by-week basis. It's a lot of fun waiting, and then knowing that these are going to come out on Saturday mornings for me is really exciting. So hopefully my dogs are not stupid. They've been weird as of late with reactions, so I apologize if they get rowdy. But yeah, let's do this, y'all. Let's start episode 3. I'm so ready. People on Patreon were like, oh, the animation's great this episode. I'm like, I'm just ready. But let's do this, shall we? We are going to start episode 3 of Modao Zushi season 3. We're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. No, it's cemented. This was my favorite episode of the whole show so far. Seasons 1, season 2, season 3, this is it. No, this is it. This is my favorite. I'm so glad y'all didn't spoil me on this, because there's so many questions. There's still so many questions that are unanswered. And I feel like now, I mean, Yang is not dead. Or is he? Or is he going to be a corpse? Or is he going to come back as a fierce corpse? We don't know. We're going to talk about this. But his body was taken away by, there was blue light, so I'm guessing that's Sushi. Sushi coming in and all this. Is Sushi coming in all this? So he was taken away. Yang was taken away. And Song got his consciousness back and is going to be like, with that dramatic flip of his hair, going to become an exorcist of evil in honor of Xingqian's memory. And then Xingqian was cremated. and King got to go. Ching got to go back. Ching did back to be able to rest in peace. But questions answered, more questions raised, especially by, we're only a fourth of the way through the season. I commented at the beginning of the reaction, I'm like, we're only a fourth of the way through season 3. We still have, 9 more episodes. So I'm like, whoa, we've already got so much of the Yang Yi City plot done with that I'm like, what else are we going to talk about? And I know there's so much more, but I'm so curious. I mean, obviously, we still haven't gone fully into detail about Wuxian's. This episode leads into so many side arcs that I have a feeling, and I commented at the end of the reaction, I have a feeling that this condensed a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you are going to comment that the novel expands a lot with Jingxin and a lot with Song and a lot with Yang. And maybe if Yang is still around, we'll get to go back and see more of that. But this episode was a perfectly concise episode. Perfectly concise from start to finish. It did not let up. It was relentless. There was action. There was drama. I was amazed. I'm so glad that the trailers, thinking back now, some of the moments in the trailers that y'all were like, man, that's really spoilery. I didn't have the context, and now that I do, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a big spoiler. I'm glad I had no clue what was going on when I watched them. But I started back this episode with the sound off because we need to go through it, because there's a lot of dialogue that happened that I'm like, I need to go back and reread it. There's so much offshooting in different directions that I was like, wait, what? But there's a lot going on in this. A lot. And so, oh, y'all, my heart is like pounding. I'm like so excited by this episode. Oh my gosh. Oh, this season has been so worth the wait over the summer. And I'm sure y'all like it's been 2 years. So worth the wait. These 3 episodes have been so good so far. And I think the one good thing about this season is, because we only have 12 episodes, it has no time to lag. This season is like, let's get down to business and do it. And that's what I really like, because, with some shows, there's downtime, and I'm watching another anime at the same time as this, and it does recaps and things like that. And I'm like, no, there's no time for recaps. We just go straight into the plot. And if you've been watching, you know what's going on. But God, so many parallels, so many offshoots to other side stories, to characters, parallels between characters. The one thing that I am happy is because a lot of you said that Yang is in the Untamed. And so when I get to the Untamed, I feel like that's going to be a nice moment to kind of, even though it's not all canon, I get some of you are like, it's kind of fanficky and it goes in directions that are different. And the glove thing now, oh my God. I thought it was just like a fashionable accessory, but no, it's hiding the fact he doesn't have a finger. There's just a lot to talk about. But yeah, I'm going to be excited when we get to the Untamed and I get to see these characters expanded upon more and fleshed out more. Even if it's not entirely canon, it's still going to give us something. And because that's what the dynamic between Jingxin and Yang, if I could say anything, I wanted it to be expanded upon more. But that has me excited to listen to the audio drama and read the manhwa and the novel. That makes me really excited for that, because then we will get to go back and see more with them. So that, I feel like when I get to those segments and those videos, it won't be a waste of time, because, oh God, in the Yi City, the blood on the stone, it all makes sense now. Oh, but yeah, but I feel like it's not going to be, it won't be a waste of time, because we'll go back and get to analyze everything that was left out of the Donghua. So that has me really, really excited. I feel like it's going to be cool going back and talking with you all about what was left out and kind of putting it all together and making a complete package. Because I feel like going into this 3rd season, I had a more complete grasp on what was happening from the first 2 seasons. And now going back, it's going to be fun to expand upon what was left out here. But they're held up in the coffin house, and they have all these charms on the door to try to keep Zhu Yang out. And then Ling says if we had used empathy instead of inquiry, that lunatic. And then it's Shishui that says empathy requires one to channel themselves through a spirit to see and feel their memories. It's extremely dangerous, but the most effective. And both of them are skilled cultivators. Oh, so they are using empathy instead of inquiry. If anything goes wrong, the clarity bell will bring them back to consciousness, so don't worry. Jinshui, you're so sweet. I love him. He's like so on top of everything. And of course, Ling is like, And Ling having the clarity bell. And he does look concerned. Oh, you can see where it's been rewrapped. So I'm guessing that's the clarity bell they gave him. I'm assuming it's not one that Ling has on him. Or maybe it is. And again, we talked about this before the reaction. Ling does feel compassion towards Wushin and Mo Jianyu's body, even though he doesn't realize it's Wushin. So Ling is a good person. He's just, has his uncle's horrible habits. But, okay, so using a process called empathy then to tap into the memories of a person, of a spirit. And Jinshui is like, well, they're both experienced cultivators, so it's fine. And I love the idea of it all being like mirrors and portals, and that you can like go through a person's memory through that, and they just appear as ghosts. That's such a cool narrative device, because I'm like, how are we going to go back in the past and see this if we're, especially in the novel, if you're looking at this from Wushin's perspective, and the idea that they have a technique that lets them go back into a character's memories is really, really cool. And it's so, you could say it's plot convenient, but it ties into the idea of spirit inquiry and using empathy to relate to someone. Like, that's a really cool technique to have in the story, and it be a narrative device. And it all checks out. That's really cool. But yeah, Jing, which in the last episode, she said her name with a J, Jing, and in here it's like Ching, it's like king. So I'm not sure exactly the right pronunciation, so I'm sorry if I've been calling her Jing and it's been wrong the whole time. But the idea that she's not really blind, that blew my mind. That was like the first like big twist. I'm like, oh, she just has white pupils, but it makes her look like she's blind, so she's just playing it off. I'm like, that's such a clever thing. Like, she's so clever. I love it. And then Yang having the sword and thinking about killing Jingshin, but Jingshin doesn't know it's him. His sword, Frost, only senses corpses, but it can't sense who exactly they are. It's just like a little infrared, and Yang looking like, so this was when Daddy Jin was supposed to kill him, and he escaped, obviously. And of course, as he escapes, who does he run into? But of all people, Jingshin, like it was fate. And so Jing saw him pull the sword, and that probably didn't help her trust any. My question is, Jingshin knows what Yang sounds like, right? Because Yang talked to him. So why doesn't he put two and two together? Or maybe he talked with a different type of voice. I have to go back and listen to the episode. So given the timeline, this should be around the time that that Yao sentenced him to death. Okay. And of course, Jing is like, that man didn't tell us where he came from. Aren't you worried about him being trouble? And then he's like, I'm only helping someone in need. And when he recovers, he'll leave. But that didn't happen. No. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, he's out to... Here's the thing. It's like he's out for revenge, but I feel like this is, in a lot of ways, like a very twisted Wanji Wushin parallel between these two characters. I feel like it's a really twisted parallel. And you throw Ning and Song into the mix, and the parallels get even more crazy. But, oh my gosh, him pointing that sword at her, and her just playing it off like she trips over the ledge. And I think in that moment, he's onto her that she's, playing it off, and she's not really blind, but her like trying to silence herself from being noticed. And of course, the only things that we get to see between them are the moments that she's with them. So we don't know exactly what happened when she wasn't around. But it's clear that she stuck around to watch over them because she was afraid that something would happen to Jingshin if she wasn't there. So she's always present in the background between them as they go on their way. She's like, you've already recovered and yet you still won't leave. I'll beat you up, you bad man. And then every time you talk, I laugh. And if I laugh, I cannot hold my sword properly. So the dynamic here is so interesting because it's like, you can tell Jingshin is maybe growing fond of Yang, but even though he wants to deny it, Yang was growing fond of Jingshin. And it's like a big old love circle. It's a big, or maybe not. Maybe Song was just a friend to Jingshin, like Ning was a friend to Wushin, you know? So that's a big possibility too. That in this whole series of events, Ning and Song were kind of like parallel beings, and that they were both had a big friendship with Jingshin and Wushin, but they weren't romantically involved, right? And so it's Yang who likes Jingshin, because in that flashback, you know, Yang came up to Jingshin and was like, "Oh, we'll meet again someday," and seemed to be having this, you know, kind of flirty mentality towards Jingshin, and Jingshin just kind of ignored him. And then Yang poisoned. I'm sure Yang was probably jealous of Song and was like, "Well, I'll just poison him and kill him and get him out of the way." But the fact that Jingshin gave Song his eyes, he cut out his eyes to give them to him. Oh my gosh. They're cultivators, so I'm sure that there's some mystical, supernatural way they can do that. But that's how he gained his eyesight back, even though he died. Or no, he hadn't died yet. He had gained his eyesight back and had been searching for Jingshin. It's like, this story is very confusing. So I'm like trying to piece it together. So yeah, so Song had been poisoned by Yang. Let me get this right. Song had been poisoned by Yang and had gone blind. And Jingshin gave Song his eyes so that he could see, and then left blind to go wander the world exercising evil. And so for some reason, we don't know exactly the details of why, Jingshin and Song were separated for years. 4 years. For 2 years, they were separated. And Song had been trying to find Jingshin, and Jingshin kept going away from reach. And in the meantime, Yang escapes prison escapes his death sentence, and runs into Jingshin, or finds Jingshin, and convinces him to heal him, and then tags along beside him all this time. And then as they're going, Yang is conveniently following Jingshin as he's killing all these corpses that we all know he's eventually going to use for his own diabolical plans. But it's clear now, it hit me in this episode now, that Yang liked Jingshin. He really liked him. And so but they were too different, you know? And so he was following Jingshin around, getting him to help him along the way, but also being near him. And then, Jing says, could it be that this delinquent is actually helping Jingshin? And yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And so Yang was just keeping Jingshin away from Song as long as he could. But here's the thing. And then there's a story, before we get to that, the story that Yang tells about the candies. And that might have been a signal too, when he says, "Oh, the candy's by your foot," but she reaches away. She doesn't listen to him, so... And then Jingshin says, "Oh, you eat a candy a day even though you're not a kid." I love that he's making her the fox pin for her hair. That's so sweet. Jingshin is so sweet. And Yang is like, "I've always loved sweets, but I didn't have parents or money, so I could never get them." And little baby Yang is adorable. Like him wandering the streets with his little fangs, like his little sharp teeth. So cute. And it's so sad. Like it's just a telling tale of this kid that tried to do something just to get a candy, and he ended up getting beat up. And then we come to find out, like, all these bad stuff that's happened to him, like him getting beaten, him getting whipped, and then eventually the man that told him he would help him, running over his finger with a cart. And that whole time, I thought it was like an aesthetic, like the glove was like an aesthetic choice, but no, it was to hide the fact that he was missing a finger because he was ashamed of it. And Jing, like, standing up for him, being like, "Well, if that was me, I would have spit in his food and water, and I can't believe he did that," and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, the story sucks. It is a tragic story. And Yang's like, "Yeah, that's the point. There's no happy ending. There's nothing happy about it." And I love the line that Jingshin says here, "A child's obsession can affect them for the rest of their life. Something that you dwell on in your past can eat away at you and influence your decisions even into adulthood. He's like, so you should try not to dwell on that past. Don't dwell on stuff that's happened in the past. Which explains why maybe if Jingxin did notice it was Yang, he just let it go. Because he's like, it's in the past. It won't do any good, right? He's like, I've moved on. I gave Song his eyesight back. I've moved on. It's fine. I've done all I can. And so that makes sense for Jingxin's character if he did know it was Yang, that he was trying to give him a second chance and let him go. But maybe he didn't know it was Yang. I'm so confused about that because his voice hasn't changed. So, but Yang's like, look, it's not that I'm dwelling on the past. It's just I remember a time when I didn't have any candy, and now that I'm running out, I can just think on that. It's very nostalgic. But here's the thing. Jingxin being so kind, I think at this point in the story, the 2 years hadn't quite passed yet, and it shows him leaving her the pin and leaving her the candy and then leaving Yang the candy. And I love that he carved her that little fox pin to take the place of her stick for her hair. Which I'm like, how'd you know that? You were blind. But then Yang's expression when he sees the candy, and it's in, and the symbolism of this show, his hand and the missing finger are in the darkness, in the shadows, and in the sunlight is this perfect candy. And him looking down at it and realizing Jingxin's kind gesture, and his eyes just flicker there for a second. And it's like, I see now why y'all have conflicting views of Yang. I see it. I get it. Because yeah, on the one hand, Yang is diabolical. He is disgusting. He forced the man he loves to kill his best friend and not even realize it, and then gloat about it to his face. And I get it. I get why people would hate him. But then there's the other side of it where he has these moments of vulnerability that are very Wuxin-like, and where he's actually working with Jingxin, and things are happy and things are fine, and he shows that he cares about him, and Jingxin leaves him the candies, and he keeps seeing it, and it's and you tell that he cares about him, and he smiles there when he has the candy left. Like it's so multidimensional and complex. And I think that's why Yang's character fascinates me for that reason. Like, there's a side of him that is disgusting and that you can't help but just hate. But then there's a side of him when you see those little soft gestures, when he sees the candy and he smiles because he realizes how kind Jingxin's being, that you're like, dude, you clearly like Jingxin. You clearly like him. Why are you doing this? And he can't let go of his past. And so 2 years pass. 2 years pass. And you think, after all this time, and after all this that's happened, that Yang being around Jingxin and having that influence would have a positive impact on him. And maybe it did. But he's running back from the rain, trying to beat the rain. He's running back, and he gets stopped. And his food and everything gets tossed off by the sword. And it's Song. And Song isn't dead yet. And he's like, Zhu Yang, I found you. And he's like, you broke my basket. And of course, Zhu Yang's first reaction, he instantly has this like disgusting smirk and sly look on his face. Like his persona comes up. He's like, all those sincere moments with Jingxin, he washes them away and puts up this facade instantly of being like, oh, how rare of you to visit. Like, here for dinner? Like, and he's like, why are you mad? And of course Song's mad because he's like, you poisoned him. You poisoned me. And I like that Song doesn't even bring up the fact that Yang poisoned him. He says, you took advantage of his blindness and deceived him. So he knows now that Jingxin has been with Yang, and I'm sure he's been asking people around, and I'm sure the locals have been like, oh yeah, they've been like around for 2 years. And he's like, you deceived him. And he's like, his blindness. Yeah. And then of course it's right in front of that sign. And so I wanted to go back and read this. He's like, did you forget who he gave his eyes to, Song? Which was him. And he knocks him down and he says, and who was the one who took his anger out on him? and told him he never wanted to see him again. So I feel like that's a big part that the novel is going to expand on, is this whole backstory of Song and what exactly went down between Song and Jinxin right after he got his eyesight back. So it sounds like that Jinxin gave him his eyes and gave him his sight back, and then Song told him to leave and never come back. For reasons we're not exactly sure about. For reasons we don't know. That I'm sure the novel and the audio drama are going to expand upon. But for some reason he sent him away. So that makes sense why Jinxin wasn't looking for him. And he's smoking his face, and then he takes out the sword, and Yang cuts his tongue off so he can't speak anymore. And he has the corpse powder. So he did the corpse powder, the corpse sickness, to make him seem like a corpse. That was confusing me in the episode. I was like, why did Frost go after him if he was alive? But you could see the spots on his face. He put the powder on him to make him seem like a corpse, to have the corpse sickness. And he cut out his tongue so he couldn't talk. And that's when he runs into Frost. God, oh, it's genius, and it's savage, and it's awful. And it kills him. And he sees that it's him. And for a second I was like, did he realize it was him? But he doesn't. He's just killing a corpse. And Jing saw everything. And he says Jinxin says Frost sensed something, so I followed its directions here. And it's been a long time since I encountered a corpse in this area, not to mention a lone one. And they both look so, Wanji and Wushin look so sad. Like, they're like, oh my god. And Wushin's like, Zishin looked for Jinxin for 2 years. And the first time he finds him, their reunion is one where he died. Oh my god. And I wonder if it's like a parallel with Wushin and Wanji. We'll talk about that. But yeah, Yang knows that she's faking being blind, and that just, oh my god. They do no favors by making him look very attractive in this animation. He's like, little liar. And your Teos is left. He can't save you now. But he hadn't left. He's like, he saved you. He gave you candies every day, and you betrayed him. You ingrate. So for 2 years, he gave him candies. He's like, speaking of candies, that story about the kid and the candy, I never got to finish it. And then, yeah, Jinxin throws the sword at him. Ah. I should not have promised to help you buy vegetables today. But clearly it didn't kill him, because it just cut him. They call me a monster and a madman. Why not let me finish my story? And so at this point, Jinxin doesn't know about Song. He just knows that Jing is saying that it's Yang. And I love carving up. And we get all tying back to episode 1 where they see the carving in the stone. It's all traces from the battle, and they didn't realize what it was at the time. The man grew annoyed, and that's when he decided to whip him. And the kid fell to the ground. And then he rips off the glove, and the wheels of the carriage ran over the boy's finger. And that man was Chang Ping's father. And so you killed his entire, and he's like, you killed his entire clan because he broke your finger off? And he's like, only about 50 people. So yeah, there's like a madness there. How could their lives make up for my finger? And Jinxin's like, well, what about everybody else? What about the temple? What about Song? And then, so this is the jealousy. Yeah. So, you know, Yang thinking that Jinxin is, he's jealous, thinking Jinxin liked Song in that way. But I honestly, after watching this episode and rewatching it, I think that Jinxin and Song were just really good friends. And then at the end of the day, Jinxin separated himself from Song. But it seems like Yang and Jinxin had the relationship. And Yang, you're just self-destructing yourself. It's just self-destructive. Because then he says the question you should ask yourself, oh my god, why did you have to stand up for those dregs, meaning the Changs? Why did you help them? Chang Ping retracted his claim, and your name was sullied instead. You made the mistake from the start. Again, this is all, there's so many parallels to Wushin and Wanji between these two characters, between Yang and Jingshin. Because on the one hand, I mean, you can instantly see the parallels between Wushin and Yang. You can instantly see those parallels, right? Because they both are the demonic cultivators. They both have had their names raked through the mud. They've both been accused of horrible atrocities. And they both have, I mean, Yang's committed way more atrocities than Wushin. Yang has actually massacred a village and actually killed people. Wushin's just been convicted of it. And his actions led to a massacre, but he didn't purposefully seek out the vengeance like Yang has. And then you see the parallels to Wanji and Jingshin, because he's like, Yang says, you know, your name was sullied in the end because you protected someone that went back on their word. And that kind of ties back to Wanji aligning with Daddy Jin back in season 2 and the others to go after the Wing Clan. He's like, he aligned himself with them, and then they instantly discounted Wanji when he tried to stand up for Wushin. So I'm wondering if the scars on Wanji's back were punishment for trying to help Wushin. I don't know. We haven't found that out yet. But if that's the case, that would parallel a lot with Jingshin. Jingshin losing his eyes and Wanji having all these scars. Like their actions, their mistakes being, you know, what caused these horrible things to happen to them. And then, of course, God, the animation in this episode was so good. And then the moment that Jingshin says, "You are indeed disgusting." And that cuts to Yang. Like, he's like, I thought you cared about me, but that's like someone you love telling you that you're disgusting. And then, of course, we put on the persona. And his immediate reflex, if somebody says something that affects him negatively, his immediate reflex is, I'm just going to dish it right back to you even worse. Because, you know, there's people like that if you say something bad to them, they instantly, like, try to make it worse. Like, try to say something twice as bad back to you. And that's Yang's reflex. And he's like, oh. And then, of course, there's the corpse. And he snaps his fingers to bring him back to life, to bring Song back to life. And that smile, that fake smile, it's kind of like a dark version of Wushin's smile. Like, Wushin's chaotic gremlin smile is usually, like, happy and everything's great. When Yang smiles like that, he's hiding how he truly feels. And oh my God, he's like, Zhao Jingshin, do you know what exactly we've been hunting for the past 2 years? So that makes me believe too that was Yang looking for Song as well to get him to be a corpse. Was that part of his plan? Again, I feel like the audio drama in the novel is going to expand upon that. And as they're fighting, he's like, your Frost is able to pick up the scent of corpses. And he's just like trudging along in the background, like just so happy with himself, even though you can tell he's in pain from what Jingshin's told him. But it cannot tell a live being from a dead. So all I had to do was remove their tongues so that they could do nothing but wail and spread. Oh, okay. And that's leading to another thing. Back when they were knocking the people down and killing them, Jing made the comment, she's like, rigor mortis is setting in. But if they were already corpses, that wouldn't be the case. So he's been cutting out their tongues. And then as they've been going along, Yang's been cutting out their tongues. And Jingshin's been killing them, not knowing any different. Oh my God. It's all coming together as I'm rewatching this. And then so Jingshin is like, you're a liar. No, you're lying. You're trying to trick me. And he's like, yes, I've always been lying to you. And do you know who it was that you just killed? Oh my God. And you said I took advantage of your blindness and deceived you. And the engraving on the sword says snow. Frost and snow! Oh my God, no! And he's like, but he forgot who was the person you gave your eyes to. And then, oh my God, and the eyes bleeding. The symbolism. And he dropped Frost. Oh. He's like, saving the world, what a joke. You can't even save yourself. You think you can change the world just by doing good deeds. And this is not tying just to Jingshin. Yang is making a comment about himself because he's like, the good deed I tried to do. I tried to help that man deliver that letter so that I could get the candy to help not only get the candy for himself, but to do something good. That whole action was completely, it wasn't rewarded. Instead, I got beat and I lost my finger by trying to do a good deed. He's like, you're a fool. And we cut to Wushin you self-righteously proclaim that you punish evil in the name of justice. But all you have done is bring trouble to yourself. And you've caused the people around you to suffer because of you. And in the end, you failed miserably and you're the one to blame. You asked for all of this. And that's tying to Wushin completely. It's tying to Wushin saying that he was going to attack the winds in the name of justice and doing all that demonic cultivation that led to Yanli's death, that led to Zixuan's death, that led to Ning and King's death. Like, all of it. It's all in the name of justice. And you know Wushin is like just completely understanding what Yang is talking about. And Jingxin overcome with guilt. Oh my God. I didn't realize... and the animation in this scene where everything goes green and turns green... Oh my God, and the lightning and the rain droplets like slowly falling is gorgeous. And Yang, the animation on Yang looking just feral, and then realizing in the 2 seconds too late what Jingxin was going to do. Because at that point, he's like, I killed my best friend that he possibly loved. And he slices his own neck. And that blood hitting the Yi City sign. That's it. And it turning to red, the blood turning to red. And then Yang's reflection in the sword. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then the red rain and Wushin just looking so defeated. But then Wanji with the umbrella beside him and he holds the umbrella out to where it's just shielding Wushin. And Wushin smiling and taking his hand and angling it to where they're both protected by the umbrella from the rain. that symbolism that even though things have ended so tragically for Yang and Jingxin, that Wushin and Wanji are not in the same boat as them. That Wushin coming back. And I wonder if that's what Yang wanted all along, was he wanted Jingxin to come back, to have that moment like Wushin has with Wanji. We'll talk about that in a second. But I love this line as the whole memory is starting to fade. Yang saying, it's better that he's dead. Only the dead listen. And that's such a chilling line, only the dead listen. Ooh, tying back to both of them. And then, of course, what brings them out is Ling bringing them back to consciousness because Yang is about to do a counterattack with the whole array and everything in the corpses. Senior Mo. Yeah. And then, of course, Wushin still being slightly affected, like something's affecting him in a bad way. But that green array, oh my God. Bringing the corpses out. Oh my gosh. And then, of course, I love this. Wanji trying to use him and Wushin together to protect from the array striking down on them. And then, yeah, Yang just bursting in. And the skull piercers, the nails. Yep. Showing up to attack both of them. And I love that Wanji steps in and is like, you back off my man. I ain't gonna let you attack him. Yeah. Oh my God. I love it. And then him slicing his hand across the sword to make the array with the blood. I saw that preview this morning on Twitter of him doing that move, and I was like, oh, that animation's great. That looks awesome. But, and then all the corpses showing up. So good. I love it. And then Shishui, him being the oldest, most mature, the voice of reason out of everybody. I love that. It's a great callback to season 1. And reading the novel and the book, that he's like, Sisui, he's like, Senior Mo, he's like, you're the most mature of all of them. Stay here and make sure everyone's safe. And he pats his head. And it's a callback to in the novel where he says, Sisui is has the most potential out of all the Land sect members, that he's the most potential youth, and he's like the most mature out of all of them. And him saying, I'm not afraid. And Wushin's like, I know you're not afraid. after that, and then him saying, "You and Wanji are so alike. I feel safe when you're both around." Oh, I love it. I love it. But yeah, oh my God. Like this whole thing, this final confrontation between Yang and Wanji was so good. And then, of course, he decides to bring Song into the picture because he's like, we'll just do 2-on-1. But then Ning shows up, and that's foiled. He's like, some things are just too loyal. What a pain. And I love Wushin attacking Yang and being like, Ning is not a thing. He's a person. Like, don't confuse the two. Like, the dead aren't just things for you to control. And then he knocks the bag out of his hand. We still don't know what was in the bag. He has a sword. He has his frost and he has frost and he has the bag. He's like, give it back. And of course, Wanji's like, nope, not getting near my man. And them still fighting. He's like, give it back to me. So I'm like, what was in the bag? And then Calamity being a sword. I love this sword is named Calamity. He's like, do you want Jingshin's soul or frost? You don't deserve either one. So I guess his soul's in the bag. Jingshin's spirit is in the bag. And it's not frost. He wants the soul. Yeah. He's like, Ning, I want you to protect Ling and the others. And they leave Song there. Oof. He has some skills. Oh my God. And then of course, I love that King she's going around trying to like locate him, like get him out of there. So then I wonder what Wushin looks up at the birds. I guess maybe he's using that as a signal of where to find him. What if you got the spirit trapping pouch back? You can't bring back someone to life who no longer has the will to live. He doesn't get to decide that. Ah, and she's leading him to him. And using her cane to make noise. Little blind brat. And then, why are you so determined to bring Jingshin back to life? To go back to the good old days? Don't be naive. Jingshin despises you. Who wants to go back to the past? And so here's the thing. Here's the truth of it all. He can't bring Jingshin back because Jingshin doesn't want to come back. He doesn't want to be in that realm anymore. He doesn't want to be in that realm anymore. So he didn't want to come back and be a corpse or a fierce spirit. He just wanted to pass on. And so we flash back to Yang trying to do something. It shows him like with the spirit inquiry trying to bring his soul back. And what does he say there? He says, I just want to turn him into a fierce corpse and evil spirit. He wanted to be someone virtuous, did he not? Then I'll make it so that he never stops killing, so he can never be at peace. He's like, and Wushin's like, do you hate him that much? Why did you kill Cheng Ping then? They took my finger, and I'll wipe out the entire Cheng clan, every single one of them. He's like, oh, so for revenge, right? Was it for you though? Or was it, then why use Frost instead of your own sword? Why use Jingshin's? Was it for revenge for you? Or was it revenge for Jingshin? Whose sake was it for? Because they, like we established, they sullied Jingshin's name. They raked it through the mud. And so was he getting revenge not only for himself, but for the man he potentially loved? Gah! If you really wanted to avenge him, then the one you should have executed was yourself. And that's tying back to Wushin. We haven't seen Wushin's death yet, but I'm like, that's the parallel that Wushin's like, look, I did some messed up shit and caused a bunch of stuff to happen. And you know how I repented? I destroyed myself in the Tiger Amulet. Just the same way Jingshin destroyed himself. The parallels! The parallels! And then, oh, that like scraping across the sword, across the tree bark. And here's the thing. Yang did not intend for Jingshin to kill himself like that. He didn't intend for that. Because you can just look on his face and he's like when he's trying to grab the spirit particles that are escaping, that aren't going inside, that are wanting to just stay away. Oh my God, like him trying to grasp at the particles. And then as soon as the inquiry's over, the wound opens back up and him just sitting there trying to close it with his hands as the blood's just coming out everywhere. And so it makes sense now. The one protecting the corpse this whole time was him. He protected Jingshin's corpse because he loved him. Oh my god. And then he says blind brat, and Jing, he tries to knock her away, and the sword gets him. Like, right through the heart, the sword gets him. And knocks him down. And then she's like, I did it. I got my revenge. She's like, I avenged myself. And then I love the parallel of the water coming off the blades of grass. And in the last episode, we ended it with the blood coming off the blades of grass. And he sees, and he's reaching for the pouch. The candy. Oh, the candy. He was reaching for a candy to eat. And then he loses his arm. Ah. And he got it right through the heart. So the question is, if he's dead, is somebody going to take him and try to make a fierce corpse out of him? Because we have that teleportation talisman that is clearly Sushi's. I'm thoroughly convinced it's Sushi's. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, and yeah, they take him away. Yeah, they wanted to, so the tiger amulet must be with him. Damn. And then this animation, the sunlight coming out, and then Song being like, I'm gonna cremate his body and take Frost with me. And there remains. And then Yi City burning. Damn. Oh my gosh, you guys. Well, so yeah. Oh my god, this episode. It's been my favorite so far. So good. So good. Okay, so I'm guessing next episode, are we gonna celebrate? Are we gonna have Wang Shin moments to celebrate this whole thing with Yang being resolved for the moment? Is that where we're gonna get some of our Wang Shin moments next episode? Because I'm all for it if we do. I'm all for it if we do. But we still have so much. There's still the whole thing with Yao. There's still the whole thing with Sushi. We don't know about that. There's still the whole thing with the Ni clan, with the Ni brother, because we're gonna get flashbacks of that. We still haven't seen Wushin's death. We still haven't tied all that back together. We still have all the Wang Shin stuff to come. And we haven't pieced everything together. We know that Yang is responsible for the whole thing with Jingshin and the whole Chang family massacre and the whole thing with Song and the Beiju temple. We know that he's responsible for all that. What we don't fully understand is what were his ties to Yao. What were his ties to Yao and Daddy Jin and all this, because there's still the skull piercers that we haven't got explained. They've been taken out of Song, so Song is like a corpse like Ning, but he's free to move around now. But we don't have the explanation of how Sushi and the others are involved, so we still need answers on that. We still need answers on the Ni clan and the death of the brother. We still need explanations of the tiger amulet, like what's up with that. Like there's so much that's still left unanswered, but I feel like a big chunk of the mystery was put together in this episode, which is crazy. And I have a feeling that a lot of people that read the novel will probably be like, man, they missed this part and this part and this part. From this episode, it's been my favorite of the whole Donghua so far, but I have a feeling there's been so much left out or cut because of them having a 12 episode season. So I can't tell you how excited I am to get to the audio drama and the manhwa and the novel with this. I can't express how excited I am. I'm so ready. Yes. Yes, please. Yes, please. So, yeah. There's that. So I'm excited, y'all. This may have been one of the longest discussions I've done for a show, but it's worth it. It's warranted. It's been like nearly an hour or 45 minutes. Not an hour, 45 minutes of talking about this episode. Oh, I'm so glad we're getting longer episodes too. So yeah, I don't know where we're going to from here. Next week is totally uncharted waters. Uncharted waters. I have no clue. I figured we'd get some more with Yang this episode, but I don't know what to expect, which is exciting, right? So please no spoilers, but if you have any comments about the episode, I would love to hear them. If you've read the novel, you can be like, Romania, don't worry. There's going to be more, because I really want more with Yang and Jingshin and Song. I want more of them. So I'm curious to know if we're going to get that as it goes. But yeah, y'all. Fantastic episode. So good. I'm so excited about it. But in any case, I hope y'all have had a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, we'll be back next week with episode 4 of Modao Zushi. Bye.